Hey,
I think I'm the new Adam here. So
you know what? You know what? That it might be, but I'll say this: you and I had a moment at Goals. I don't know if you remember,
we
but it was
did.
in the
Oh,
elevator.
100%. Yeah. Why are you gonna say I don't
Okay.
remember? There was a little whiskey, less windage, a little whiskey, but yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah,
I
we
remember it, brother.
we had a moment. We had a moment in the elevator. It was quite nice,
oh,
but
that's
awesome, dude.
awesome.
I'm excited, man.
He's probably the most charming man in the industry.
Welcome back to Whiskey and Windage, the 2A podcast for the people, by the people. Man, this week has been a little bit crazy. Adam, how about your week, man?
You know what? It's not been a bad week, yeah. It's been crazy.
Yeah, yours too.
Which Adam? Yeah, which
We got
Adam,
two
man?
Adams.
This is the
We're
first.
starting this off great.
I love
This is
it.
the first.
Dude, this is the best thing ever. Like, we can't even make it through. This is great. So hold on, we'll start here. Adam J., how you doing?
I am great. It's been a crazy, basic, hectic week, but I can't complain.
Yeah, nobody cared anyway. Matt, what about you, bro?
Dude, I'm having a great week. Got to take some new range toys out today with the wife. Had a great time, and I am super excited about today's guest. A guy that we've been talking to for the better part of a year. A busy
Like a love
man.
story.
Yeah, it's been like a love story.
You know how many do you like me? Will you date me? Yes or no's we've had to send each other to get this man on the show.
We had to rough him up at SHOT Show. I walked up and stole his tie pin, and we're like, yo, bro, when do you Anyway, we've got Mr. Adam Ruonala from Century Arms and Canik. Adam, welcome to Whiskey and Windage, brother.
You know what they say? They say the early bird gets the worm, or the guy that just keeps shooting the shot. I guess you guys won me over. So I think I'm the new Adam here. So it's
You know what? You know what? That it might be, but I'll say this: you and I had a moment at Goals. I don't know if you remember.
we did. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Why are you gonna say I don't
Okay.
remember? There was a little whiskey, less windage, a little whiskey, but yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah,
I remember it, brother.
We had a moment. We had a moment in the elevator. It was quite nice, but
Oh,
awesome.
that's
dude.
awesome.
I'm excited, man.
He's probably the most charming man in the industry. I met Adam, at Century Adam at a bar, and I'm like,
Why does everything have to be at a
tall guy.
bar? You guys are gonna get me
I
fired
don't know.
already. Yeah.
I don't know. Look, it's marketing. Look, we were forming relationships. It was valid, and I'm just because I'm not a little guy. I'm not a real huge guy, but I'm taller than most and heavier than most, and Adam is a tall man. I was like, dang, brother. I was like, I'm usually the biggest guy in every room, and he turns around and says, "You're still the biggest guy in this room." I'm like, yeah, what a schmoozer, dude. What a schmoozer.
You got some lines, you got to use them. You know what I mean? So
yeah. When I first met Adam, it wasn't at a bar like these two degens.
thank you.
It was at dinner, and I heard some guy just basically giving this spiel to one of the big distributors. Is like, we got to close this deal, damn it, and let's get it done. And I think he sold a billion maybe that day at dinner. I don't know, dude. He was killing it. He was doing his job.
It was over a bottle of wine, so same thing. You know what I mean? We're still in
I
trouble.
don't even think it was wine. I think it was sparkling grape juice. There was no drinking. He was
There we
doing
go.
private
Yeah,
books,
see,
doing
it's about
everything.
responsible management. Yeah, I like this.
So-
Yes.
Mike,
So,
you know what?
Adam-
This is why.
Yeah.
Century Adam, most of our listeners, you're kind of behind the scenes. So if they don't work in the industry, they may not. Most of our industry friends know exactly who you are. But if our listeners don't know who you are, would you introduce yourself? Tell everybody who you work for and what it is that you do.
Absolutely, man. So I'm the vice president of marketing and business development for Century Arms and Canik USA. So been there about 5.5 years now. Been really blessed to be a part of what has been the astronomical kind of rocket ship growth in terms of Canik, and really be a part of on the Century side, the kind of evolution into being more of a product design company and like finding these new partners like Canik. Obviously, it inspired us to realize the validity in terms of what's out there in the market that really the U.S. consumer is hungry for. And one of the gold mines for the industry right now is turkey. For so long, there was kind of this perception of just knockoffs and lesser value but affordable. and we were able to go out there and work with some of these landmark companies, like we were talking before the show started about MKE with the AP5s and just some really special companies. So what I do is I handle, obviously, I am blessed enough to still do the fun part, which is the marketing side. So handling the advertising, I get to be the talking head from time to time still, but then also on the business development side, working to find these new innovative products around the world, and then also work with everything from big defense contractors like GD, and then work with cool movie opportunities and placements, and then obviously work with politicians to ensure that our rights are protected on a day-to-day basis. So I get to kind of run the gambit. I don't do sales, but I get to go kind of pitch my song and dance from time to time that I'm pretty passionate about. And I'm fortunate enough to do it in an industry that I love and get to hang out with people like you guys that are the kind of people that we mesh well with.
Awesome, dude. So Adam, you got me intrigued already, and I usually save these questions, but you mentioned it, so I have to ask now because we're all big 2A advocates, and especially right now with everything changing, and we have a new ATF director now, for right now temporarily.
Which is cool. Cash is a cool. I'm gonna tell you, I've been on panels with this guy. I've had dinner with him. He's the real deal, man. He is real deal.
I'm excited for it. Yeah,
he's gonna break some things.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you mentioned fighting for the rights. So I guess from Century Arms standpoint, what does Century do as being a 2A advocate? Like, what are you guys doing to actually fight the good fight?
Absolutely. So obviously we've been a huge proponent of the NRA for many, many years. And the reality of this is I don't mind being very candid, and our ownership is very candid about this. The NRA kind of lost its way for a while. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. And I don't think we are, being a sellout or anything like that by saying that or abandoning the cause. I think the reality is we all have to look in our house and say, hey, something's wrong right now, and we have to do the best we can to fix it, or we're doing a disservice to each other. And so, we did everything we could to continue to support it, both financially and endorse it. I mean, every single gun that went out over the last almost 10 years has had calls to action for the NRA in it, from the Canik side, the Century side. And we never went away from that because ultimately, it's still better than nothing, but we're really excited to see that there is that final shift in terms of what's happening there. So we've been a big proponent of the NRA for many years, but now there's so many other opportunities and so many other organizations that you see that are coming up from grassroots to now actually having true influence that we're also endorsing them. I don't see it, and I don't think most gun influencers, gun media, gun manufacturers, just proponents of the 2A see like it's either I support NRA or I support somebody else. Like, the more people in the fight, the better. So, GOA, FTC, all these guys, like, we're huge on all of them. We just did the very first time Canik has ever done an actual pistol, an SMU, a special makeup for a gun organization was actually for GOA for the Goals conference. We did 500 guns that we did in GOA colors and donated. We're able to donate $25,000 just for them for discretionary funds. Like, hey, use it however you need to use it, do what you need to do. And it was a pretty cool thing. Yeah. And it was a really unique opportunity, not only to bring the financial gain to them, but also the awareness to them. And because I think those kind of organizations, they're hungry right now. You see maybe certain ones are a little more aggressive in terms of their Instagram posts than others, but sometimes you got to be pissed off. So we are staunchly behind people that want to ruffle feathers in terms of when we see our amendments being encroached on. So we are all in. There is no exception. There is no backsliding. There is no, okay, well, this is okay as long as it doesn't hurt us. The reality is this. It's a slippery slope. The 2A community deserves nothing less than to be defended on their Second Amendment rights, and it defends all other rights, and we're all in to do that. And that's where we stand. We are completely committed to endorse those who endorse, not as a company, but as a country and as countrymen. We're gonna continue to fight with them.
I know why this guy got the title he got over there.
Yep. Man, you can be fired up. It's not hard to talk about it. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I love that, and it's great. And that's like we said, we met you at the Goals Convention, and we talked to you about a couple things that you know, we want to work with you guys on and do some things, and it's going to be great. But before we jump into the Canik stuff, I do want to get into the other stuff you guys make. So the first thing I want to talk about is I want to go into Century Arms. And like we said offline, I've got an AP5 up here. When people say, because you hear people on the internet.
Yeah, speak candidly. Like, that's what we're here for. Yeah.
Yeah, like you hear people say on the internet, oh, this is made off HK tooling, or oh, this isn't made off HK tooling. When people say that, like, did Century make their own, I guess, or buy their own tooling made to build these things, or did you buy something or plans or something from another company? Like, how does this
everything these people are saying is 100% true. To put it together, so to take 50 years of history and how this kind of came to it and put it into a 2-minute elevator speech. So what happened is the Turkish government in the 80s said, hey, we recognize the value of the roller delay blowback firearm. We want that. We want that for our gendarmerie, which is like, the state police. We want that for our military. We want all this. However, Turkish government had said at the time is we need to support our local economy, our infrastructure by manufacturing this in the United States. Or not sorry, in the United States, in Turkey. Just as we like to do a lot with our militaries. There's so many DoD contracts that aren't available unless you have a factory in the United States. So the same to that, Turkey said, this is what we want. At that point, HK, I don't know, we hear all the stories about HK being, my way or you go F yourself,
The smart Germans.
Right, yeah. They agreed to actually go and build a facility in Turkey. So they actually went, set up a facility in the MKE, set up an MKE facility, which is the Turkish government. They built it on original machines with the original technical data package, the original metallurgy. So everything on there is actually based on the original HK design. Not only that, it's the only company in the world that's actually licensed by HK. So when people speculate on it or say, wow, this is actually a good clone, they're right on that it's good. They're wrong on that it's a clone because it is actually an MP5. I mean, it really is. Like, we changed the name out of respect. It's an AP, which stands for Apparatus Pistole, machine gun, basically, machine pistol. But it is. And that's the reason you can trade everything out. That's why you can find out all the accessories fit. Everything on this is not a reverse engineered platform. It is actually based off of HK. So, I mean, even Magpul, when we were bringing this in, we worked with Magpul for them to help create aftermarket parts for it because it was such a consistent replica of what you could see, but the actual originals were so hard to find. It wasn't it wasn't even worth it for Magpul to design them until we started doing this because there wasn't enough in the market. Like, how do you justify creating molds and creating thousands and thousands of parts when there's I saw something, and I'm completely speculative. This is just gun guy talk, not actually as market. But I heard something like 500, less than 1,000 total MP5 variants are being sold to the commercial market in the United States by HK annually. Ooh. It's crazy. So, how do you even find one? And if you do find one, what are you going to pay for it? So this kind of really changed the game. And when we 3 years ago brought in the AP5, AP5P, and the AP5M, which were the three kind of iconic original versions, it was a big deal. And then we were selling these, and we released them in the market, and dealers were so excited. The prices went from what we wanted them to be now, which is $1,200 to $1,500, to they were like $2,800. But they were. People made decisions and people bought them just because it was still a better deal if you could find one than the original MP5. Oh, wow. But people were mad at us a little bit. We're like, that is what is, commercialism at its finest.
So without you getting divisive or talking smack about another company, when you say the company is the only licensed by HK, so what about other people like because I have the OG roller blowback. I have a Setme before HK basically said, hey, we're going to take this idea. But What else is there? There's the
and there's great companies. Like here's this thing you'll never see me.
PTR.
Yeah, exactly.
PTR.
There's things you'll never see me do is talk trash about other companies. And the reality is this: I don't mind saying. So yeah, you have set me's, which Century Arms did a set me back in the day. We had the C308. We have our CA3 now, which is a G3 from Portugal. It's off of original HK parts and HK design. You know who actually we got them from over there. We brought them in. And you know who actually has helped us bring these conversion kits back to life? PTR. PTR works with on there. And they're amazing guys over there. They've done a great job. And honestly, I'll tell you this, like while they're a competitor, they have done a fantastic job of doing something in America that is as close you can get without actually having the behind the curtains look. Does that make sense? And I know a lot of the people over there. They're amazing people. I know the owner, Ryder. He's an amazing man. He's a firearms genius. He really is. And they've been a huge ally of ours, and we'll continue to support them as long as they'll continue to support us. They make our CA3. They made our set me's, our C308s. They helped assemble those too. The thing is this, is as a firearms community, we have to realize, obviously we're all businesses, and we have to take care of our house before. Ultimately, if Century were to let me go, Ryder at PTR is not going to pay my mortgage tomorrow. But what we can realize is that rising tides lift all ships. It really is. And we want to see that level of ideology and innovation continue to rise, because what that does is that pushes everybody. And as the consumer, as the guy that has 3 gun safes in this room over here, I want to see other companies push our company, and I want to see our company push others, because that's what really helps us all benefit. So yeah, I mean, they're a great company. You have Zenith that has done things here. Obviously they were a partner. We have a lot of companies, and there's some, I don't want to say bad blood, there's history, that's going to happen with everybody. But the reality is that Century Arms is not here to burn bridges or do anything like that. Actually, our company, our ownership is very, very insistent, and it's our moral compass to always keep doors open, regardless of what happens, because you never know what the future is going to look like and when we're going to need each other. But we've got to do what's best for us. And if there's an opportunity that's there, and as long as it's ethical, we're going to seize these opportunities. And these opportunities keep coming to us because the reality is, whether you like Century or not, we've done some beautiful things for 65 years now. And we're going to continue to do it. And that I'm sure that'll segue into kind of what the relationship is with Canik and some other cool things we get coming. But NKE came to us because of the opportunity, and now we have the SD, we have the 51, we have the 53, these kind of cool things. Yeah, man, they're
Adam, you got some questions on the SD, don't you?
I do. So that SD just came out, and that is so nostalgic. How has that been as far as is that just been you guys can't keep them in stock?
Yeah.
Can't make enough of them?
Yeah. So I think we just shipped our second order, fulfillment. Obviously I think we're back ordered on these about 6 months already. I checked my distributor before I jumped on, and checking, I won't tell which one in case somebody tries to buy one. I'm not going to tell you who, but one of my distributors no longer had the braced version of the SD, but there were 11 of the pistol variants still in stock. Yeah. But 11 can change in the matter of 2 hours. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Gone.
So it's interesting. The SD was one of the cool ones because we got to make some really cool decisions on this. So we brought in a really unique individual about 1.5 years ago. He's our new product development director. He came from another firearms manufacturer, has some knowledge, and he actually got to kind of make some decisions with MKE in regards to how this is going to be delivered to the U.S. consumer. Obviously, we know it would have made it, we could have done it, but it would have made it a lot more difficult if we'd have brought it with an actual suppressor attached as opposed to a faux.
Yeah. Way cooler, though. Way cooler.
No, way cooler. But let's be honest, attainability. Also, then the guy that already has a 9mm suppressor, does he really want to drop another $1,000 on it if he doesn't have to? We still got to realize, if you look at price points, under $1,000 gun, how many can sell $1,500 gun, how many can sell $2,000 gun, how many can sell $3,000 gun. Like who can just go out and drop? I mean, there's a lot of people, but the margin.
And you also have those
The
guys
vast majority isn't.
Yeah, but you also have those guys that I think they're personally crazy. My words, nobody else here, but they're crazy because they still don't want a suppressor because they don't want to be on a list.
Yeah.
So,
buddy, you're on a list. You're on a list.
Yeah. But you add a suppressor to it, that's a tax stamp. Some people aren't for the government in that way right now, and I get it. Their feelings, I agree with their sentiment. But I want cool stuff, so I'm going to buy one. Yeah. But yeah, so I get it.
Yeah, so what we got to do, and I want to actually ask y'all a question in a minute on that. Remember the HPA. I want to hear your thoughts on what this looks like. I'm really actually curious. Just kind of talking guy shop. I'm curious about that. But the unique thing is, we got to decide. So people were like, well, why aren't you porting the barrel? Why aren't you doing the originals like the original SD did? And we absolutely could have, honestly, for probably not much more in terms of cost. But the reality is that gun becomes so much more selective in terms of what you can actually do with that platform. Yeah. We wanted to open it up to the end user to be able to enjoy the iconic nature of it, but still make it attainable, because the reality is now you can only run certain ammo. You can only run certain suppressors. You can only do these kind of things, or the functionality of the gun is not as proficient as it needs to be. So we were like, hey, do we get crucified on this side or do we get crucified on this side? And we chose, let's make it the everyday guy's gun. And then for those that are truly aficionados on this, it's still attainable to get it to where they need to. And they're still going to do all of it, including adding a suppressor at a price that's less than they could have just gotten a gun if they found it in the market. And that we went out and we got guns to like companies like High Tech, which is an amazing company that's actually, I think they're doing a conversion. You can send them your AP5 SD. And I think you get the gun modified and then the suppressor for like $1,100, and it's back to you. So it's a pretty cool thing. They're doing it completely separate. It's not Century, but we were like, hey, let's go ahead and find avenues for those purists that want to do it the original way. We're gun guys. Cool. We can appreciate that. So yeah, it's been a cool journey. It's been a cool journey to be a part of, kind of bringing back what is this iconic platform. We actually just launched the marketing campaign for it, and the tagline is "A Legend Reborn." So it's fun to be a part of something as cool as that, like that we all grew up loving and wanting as a kid.
Well, the other problem you'd have though with the SD, with the suppressor, is right now there's a lot of suppressor companies out on the market, but if you're trying to stay true with that SD with the porting, there's only a handful.
That's what I'm saying, exactly. Yeah.
Work. So if you want to go find the OG that was made in-house at HK, be prepared, break out your wallet. If you don't and say, oh, I'll get the U.S. made one from Reed Knight, good luck finding it. And if you do,
bring two wallets. Bring two wallets.
You're going to be able to bring two more MP5 SDs home for the price that you probably paid for that suppressor.
And not only that, another weird thing people don't realize is actually diameter of the suppressor to actually fit in that classic handguard. So we had to work, like the one that we're doing a lot of stuff with in our marketing material is actually the dead air suppressor, like that. I think is it the Wolfman? Yeah, it's the Wolfman. And Wolfman. And those guys like Mike Pappas and Tony and all those guys over there, they're just great guys. Nick's their marketing guy, helps us out with this. They got us these, and it's awesome. But I didn't even think about that until we got it. They were like, well, let's make sure the diameter of this fits into that. And that changes the game too, And it snugly fits. It is perfect fit, but 1-2 centimeters more, and now you've just crossed down another line of suppressors. So it's weird. So you really have to be particular in this.
No, and it is. And the one thing I like about the AP series line, and I'm curious on this, you guys, like you said, the ones that want to be purists can be purists. The ones that want to do things like I want to do and make people mad, I want to take an AP5 and completely modernize it, and it's going to make the purists mad, which I love doing. But you can do both. The AP line really allows you to do both, and that's unique because, let's be honest, like you mentioned, these guns from the 80s, you guys are bringing back these classic guns. Well, guys like us now, and all of us here, we are 80s kids, and now we're old enough to start buying these things. So, I mean, is there going to be more on the same realm of the SD and the AP series, more classic things you guys are going to be coming out with?
We're absolutely, yeah, we're definitely. So without saying too much, there's a lot of very iconic platforms that we are very committed to figuring out a way. And
Hell yeah.
there's other companies that are, I kind of think, I don't want to say it's a race to them, because I don't think it'd be a bad thing if more than one company had it, and kind of see. But yeah, I mean,
it's a race. It's a race. It's a race. Come on.
I mean, I don't mind saying, I'll tell you right now, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for it, but I want an MP7.
Like how you look to the left.
Yeah.
Like you look left like somebody's sitting there.
First off, lower your
sniper.
voice.
Yeah. Red team go. Yeah. No, but like I want an MP7. I want an MP7. I want it in 5.7, but I also want it in 9mm. I want kind of like I want.
I know a guy you can call for one right now, but it won't be an HK.
No, exactly. But I want that variant. I want that, but I want it at a price that the everyday guy can afford. You know what I mean? Like I want it attainable now. And like there's some guys that are doing some really cool stuff, but even the ones that are coming out right now, they're still pretty pricey. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Not everybody's going out there and dropping $2,800 on a gun. And there's what? I mean, he's releasing a couple hundred a month, maybe at the most. I mean, I'm not saying, but and those are, and it's not even an HK, like you said, but it's as close to it as you're going to get. But there's got to be
soak that market up though, because as soon as those boys in South Carolina drop theirs this year, now granted, it's not a clone, it's a look similar to.
I mean, you know my story, my history with them, the boys in South Carolina. Obviously, that's without Palmetto State Armory, we could say it's called. I wouldn't be in this industry. I mean,
Shout out Cameron.
Yeah,
Shout
exactly. I remember the day Cam started. I worked there when Cam started. I remember Cam working in the warehouse. So Cam is a
work.
Yeah. Cam walked around looking lost, like the little baby gazelle he is, but he's our baby gazelle. So. But no, I mean, Palmetto State Armory, another company that's continued to, love them or hate them. You can't argue with the fact that they're passionate about the 2A community. Jamin is a dear friend of mine, and I mean, I've known him for a very long time. If I called Jamin right now on a Sunday at 6:30, he would answer the phone, and I would do the same for him. He's a good man, and the thing he cares about more than anything in this world, other than his family and God, is the Second Amendment. Like this man is 100%. He is shy. He is quiet. The way to get him talking is to start talking about guns, and that's what we need more of. And that's what I'm saying. The innovation that these companies have is what fuels us at Century right now. For many, many years, Century was the leader in imports, especially in the surplus side.
Yeah,
Michael Suter, our CEO and founder, or really not the founder, his father founded the company as a typewriter company, which is a whole nother story. But when Michael was 20 years old, took it to where we are now, he has pivoted the company in the last year and a half to be a product development company. And we've got some really exciting things coming out, both product development internally and also kind of where my orders or my marching orders are in terms of what I'm looking for internationally to be partnering.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. So we're ready to go. We're full speed ahead now.
Well, I want to get into the 51 and the 53, but before we do that, everyone listening, if you had the opportunity to build your MP5, AP5, how would you do it? Would you go K version? Would you go standard version? Would you go the long barrel?
Drop in the
Would you want wood stock? Would you want retractable stock? You want folding stock? You want the SD? Like, how would you build it? Put it in the comments below. But I'm ready to talk about the 51 and the 53.
I want a micro with the wood stock on it.
I bet, yeah. Dude, they're sick. They're sick. And with the 51 and 53, not many know, one of those is a real HK product that was made by HK. The other one was not an HK product, but was made by some redneck in America, and I'm glad he did it. Basically,
hold my beer and watch this kind of thing, right? Yeah.
So basically, it's almost as if an MP5 and the SETME 308 had a baby. It basically they're short barreled SETMEs. They're short barreled G3s. chambered in 5.56 and 308. I've heard that the 308 is basically called, what video? I was watching somebody and they were like, yeah, it's basically a flashbang dispenser because the fireball out the front is
insane.
So light.
And not only that, I'll tell you, like for a roller delay, you expect, I'm just going to be honest, you expect like that minimal recoil and muzzle rise. The 308 still lets you know it's a 308. I'm going to tell you, like, you're still like, yeah, I'm shooting a gun. I'm shooting a real gun right now.
This is a real gun.
Yeah,
so
it's
I'm
a real
excited
gun.
about these. I'm excited about them because everything is, it looks all true. And when you go to your HK part sites or whatever, you know, for those guys that know what I'm talking about, when you go find all these parts, they all line up with these guns. And, you know, they are just super sweet. So what made you guys, first off, I guess my question is, why did you guys bring these back? And then the second thing is, now that I know these are licensed under HK, now that I know that, you know, this is the same tooling, same metallurgies, my second question is, without talking crap about HK, how are you guys able to build these things at half the price?
You know, I can't speak again. I can't speak to HK too, and I don't want to. You know, I don't want to poke the bear too hard. But what I can say is this: I think HK has a level of mystique around it that people are going to be willing to purchase. Like, we know. Let's be honest. The way I see it is this, and I might get yelled at work tomorrow about this, but sometimes we go into work in our head, or we go into the store and our head hurts, right? And we're going to buy ibuprofen. We're going to buy ibuprofen, whatever brand it is, whether it's the Walmart brand or the ibuprofen brand. We know they're going to do the same thing, right? But now other things, certain things we are going to buy the tag brand. Just whether there's a status thing or it's whatever it may be. I think on firearm, for so many years, we were so conditioned that we had to buy the name brand, and for good reason too. Since if you want to know when you pull the trigger, it works, right? The last thing I want to do is actually need this thing to do a job, and it's not there to do it. I think it takes time. I think it takes time if you're not that original name brand to gain that credibility. And I think what we've done now with the AP series is kind of gain that credibility, as we were talking about in terms of running the dog out of your AP5 behind you in full auto. It's gained credibility, and now we've sold thousands and thousands and thousands. And also, if you look at HK's business model, especially on those kind of platforms, the business model isn't designed to sell to the consumer. You know, they've got their hands full selling around the world. So to them, they're like, hey, we've got these pistol lines that do very well to the commercial market, things like this. I don't think their priority is this. So if they're gonna sell them, they're gonna make optimal margin. You know, I mean, and for us, we're working with a government facility out of Turkey that's MKE, which are literally elite in terms of their manufacturing process. They make everything from small arms and ammunition to, you know, large scale artillery and tanks. So to them, this is an everyday routine, but with the proficiency that they would build, you know, modern day warcraft. So they can do that on a scale that allows for us to pass on that savings to the end user. So that's where you're really seeing that. As to why we did it, it's America. Why the hell not? You know, I mean, so like, you know what's better than 9mm roller delay? 5.56, 308. Like, let's keep going. If we can figure out how to do a 50 cal one, we'd already have it on the market. Like, you know, so yeah, I mean, I honestly, to me, I think there's always going to be a bigger demand overall for the 9mm. I think that's where you're going to see the lion's share of the business. But I think for the purists and the cool factor guys that just really want this, I think there's going to be a place for it. And that's why we were like, hey, we have to give this a go. We have to let this come into the U.S. market and see where it is. And people are excited. It's really funny, though. It's like Ford and Chevy guys. Some people are like, I don't care about the 5.56 one at all. I only want the 308. And other people are like, I don't give a damn about the 308. I only want the 5.56. So it's really interesting. We have these bets at work in terms of which one's going to be the best seller. And depending on who you ask, like, people are all in terms of which horse they're picking.
Well, dude, I want them both because I'm going to try and attempt to burn them both down.
I've 308 full auto, like, just tell me you hate your shoulder without telling me you hate your shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but if I could turn this camera around, I'm looking at my vise over here, and I've got another. This one was actually from the .NET people. This is actually a receiver, and the barrel and the trunnion and everything I've welded and I'm building because I'm actually putting another G3 together.
Yeah.
So I'm the guy that'll build them too, and I highly don't recommend people do that because it's not worth it.
It's a lot. It's hard. Like, it is.
Dude,
it
you
is.
pay $500 more for it when you're done than what you could have bought one for. But I like doing it because now that I've done it, I can.
You know how that gun works.
I can work on any of them now, and
Yeah.
so, But I don't know. I think, like you said, what HK, the nostalgia, but I also think it's kind of the same thing. And I'm not talking smack about people like Knights Armament, but Knights has a contract with the government. If they all of a sudden lower their price to the civilian market, I'm pretty sure the government would say, "Hey, hold on now. Why aren't we paying this price for them?" I mean, plus if they had to shut down one operation, I don't care if you say who's for the people or who's not. You ask HK, you can either sell to the civilians or to the military. They're not even going to issue an apology letter to the civilians. They're just going to shut it down and start shipping stuff out to the military. And I would too, because that's where the money's at.
Well, there's some big iconic names in our industry in the U.S. that have kind of made that business model change, especially for for rifles. And we know who that is. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird time to be a gun hunter. You know what I'm saying?
It's different. It's easy to throw those stones until you're the guy.
Exactly. That's why I'm not talking any trash. That's not.
So you're the guy sitting at the desk having to make the choice, and you look at, well, if I go civilian route, I can keep 65% of my employees. But if I go government contract, I can keep all 100.
Brother, let's talk the real question there is job security long term.
Yeah.
And that's what it goes back to the very first question Adam asked me is like, why do you guys fight for gun rights and what are you doing to support these organizations that are? At any given time, like we are constantly, every year, battling these regulations that could literally put so many companies out of business. Not cut sales a little bit, out of business.
Yeah.
Out of business. And so, some of these companies make decisions. They're like, hey, the government's still going to be buying guns regardless. And if things get bad, they're going to buy more guns. But tomorrow I can be told I'm not importing guns anymore. I can't bring these parts in, or this part no longer, I like to sell pistol ARs. That's my business model. And, obviously people like to brace them for safety and security reasons but all of a sudden a brace is no longer in faction. You saw seriously quality-based companies that had really innovative products. I mean, companies in Florida that all of a sudden literally were trying to figure out the next day how they were going to put food on their tables. So it's a really scary dynamic, but it's a never settle kind of dynamic. Like you have to understand what you're committed to doing. And I think there's a lot of majority of the firearms industry is committed to actually honoring the people. I tell you, I know some CEOs of some of the largest firearms manufacturers, and we're in that space now. But I'll tell you, like Mark Smith at Smith & Wesson, he's a good man. He is a good man, and he believes in this country and believes in the Second Amendment and does everything he can. But ultimately, he's got thousands of people he's got to supply for too. Like, do you want to be in that seat trying to figure out what to do?
Nope.
The good news is you've got people like him that are going to do everything in their power to support, all of us. So, it's a fair question and it's a fair response by like level-headed individuals to understand that there's a lot that has to be decided when you're making decisions in terms of what your business model is.
Amen. Adam, I want to change gears a little bit because we obviously talked about Mike's tism here, roller delays, but Century does so much other stuff too.
I can't wait to start this fight, Adam Johnson. Are you ready to help throw gas on this fire?
Gloves off. So, Century Arms is an importer, and they are also a manufacturer. So, in the AK space, we've got lines such as the Wasser guns, the Draco guns that are imported from Romania. And then Century Arms also makes the VSKA and the BFT line of rifles. And there's been times in the past where they're like making kit builds out of Yugoslavia and doing like for the longest time, Century was the only place you could buy an AK. Like for a long time. So right now the VSKA, the BFT, they came out. There was I think mostly it's victim of the. Do you remember the game in school when you'd play like telephone or whatever, where you tell the person next to you what? And so I think mostly it's the case of telephone of like, but there's like all these stories of VSKAs blowing up and BFTs splitting in half, and most of the question came into reliability and the length of life of trunnion and bolt carrier. What has what is
What are we doing? What are we doing, and how do we back our claim? Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. So I can tell you kind of where the game started, right? So the game started about 10 years ago, a little under 10 years ago. Century Arms was racing to make the very first all-American made AK, and that was the RAS 47. That was what they were calling it.
Okay.
Palmetto State Armory, who I worked for, was racing to make the very first all-American made AK-47, the PS AK-47. Both companies said, we're going to do this. Shouldn't be that hard. Let's dive in. Spend a lot of money, time, and effort. If we can make it, especially PSA, we were like, we can make an AR, we can make an AK. Update. Not the same thing. Here. It's like saying, if I can drive a car, I can drive a motorcycle. Update. We weren't talking about, it's not a car to a motorcycle. It's a car to a hot air balloon. It's like there, exactly. It's not even, it's like weird things. There's not even a steering wheel. Like the controlled chaos. The controlled chaos that is an AK is the exact opposite of the precision manufacturing that is an AR. So you had these two companies that were working to create something that had never been done before. And to be honest, even like the technical data packages that were available and the officials or the experts in the industry that knew what they were talking about, it was such guesswork and divining rod kind of operations that we didn't know what we didn't know. And I'm fortunate enough to be on both sides of it. I was literally on it with PSA, then I was on it with Century. There was growing pains, man. There's gonna be. And when you're doing something like that, was there issues? Absolutely. Were there things that we had to correct on the PSA side, on the Century side? Absolutely. But what you do there is you learn from your mistakes, you learn from trial and error, and you innovate. So then Century Arms came out with the Visca, the VSKA, the Visca, and what they did is they said, all right, here's what didn't work in the RAS. Here's what did work in the RAS. Ultimately the RAS, we sold hundreds of thousands of those. And were there some issues with a couple of them? Sure. Did we rectify those issues? Absolutely. But then we said, all right, the Visca is the new thing, and here's what we're doing. So then there became these keywords, things that were like, oh, it's got to have a forged trunnion, or it's got to have a bulged trunnion, or these talking points that were what made a gun quality or not. The Visca actually runs on S7 tool steel. So S7 tool steel is actually the same tool steel that's used on jackhammer tips. Yep. So, exactly.
Claws, all kinds of crazy.
Exactly. So the durability of that is actually an innovation of steel outside of just forging. What we found is it actually was just as durable, if not more, than what you were seeing in a lot of these keyword component guns.
Yes.
But what we found is you're still going to see people that are like, hey, unless it's this, we're not going to validate it. So then our engineering team looked in and said, all right, 90% of people are now, if the people that are complaining because it's either not bulged trunnion or forged trunnion. So which one are we going to do? They finally said, let's do both. So it's a bulge forged trunnion, you know,
A
which is
BFT,
complete.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Which,
I thought
to
it
be
was
honest with
big
you,
front trunnion. I was like,
no,
big front or big trunnion or something. I was like, I don't know.
there was even the joke internally. It was the big fucking trunnion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to be honest with you, but like the reality is, it's not necessary to have all. But we'd rather do overkill to correct any perception of ineptitude than go under. And so so the BFT actually has, you know, running on on forged components, running, you know, enhanced rivets. You have those obviously extra rivets, and because of the bulge, you can see it. You know, it's got some of that more iconic RPK style design on the on the receiver. But here's this: I'll tell you, the Visca is still our best-selling AK. You know, I mean, it really is, because here's what you can do. When you have a quality gun, goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that has over time produced and continued to go against or prove the naysayers wrong, like we were talking about with guns, and, you know, not necessarily the name brand, and at a price point that is approachable, which is what the Visca is, people are gonna buy it. Like, you know, you might have the online guys that want to talk trash, but if you decide you want an AK and you go to your neighbor and you shoot his and you go, this gun's actually not bad. He's like, yeah, I got 8,000 rounds through it. You're like, what? Well, if it's good enough for him, then it's good enough for me. And that's kind of the reality of what it is, especially if I'm looking at spending, you know, even on our guns. Sometimes, do I want to spend $1,100 on an underfolder Wasser, or do I want to get a Visca and trick it out myself, like we were saying, for $600? You know what it is. Yeah. Both are going to run. I wouldn't put my name behind something as a spokesman for this company if I didn't believe that if he pulled the trigger and needed to go bang, he wouldn't go bang. Yeah. I run it.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because when we when we got you scheduled in and you were coming on, when we got to the AK session in our pre-production, Adam and I were like, hey, Matt, we need you to ask these questions, because every time we have an AK guy on, other than someone that's making AKs for another company, you know, you get the people in the comments, and get us again. Come on.
Yeah, come on, bring it. And I'll read it and I'll answer. I'll chime in.
But they basically say, you know, Century Arms has crap components and they're not a good gun, and don't make that your first gun. So I asked Matt offline. I was like, Matt, why does Century Arms AK suck in the AK world? Tell me. And he kind of didn't say much for a second, and I was like, I want to ask you, like, why do they? And he was like, well, you know, some of the things, I'm quoting you, Matt, so if I say it wrong, correct me.
I'll jump in here in a minute, no worries.
But I said, hey man, what sucks? And he said, well, the trunnions, I hear that, you know, people would say that trunnions are cast, or that the rivets were ugly or weren't nice, or what was it? What did you say?
Just sometimes there's rivet quality out of spec, like they'll egg, they won't be perfectly round. It'll still be a perfectly functioning rivet, but the aesthetic of the rivet is
the purest of it. Yeah. And that happened, especially on the Raz back in the day. There was the original Razes were cast, but we haven't had a Raz in 7-8 years. But then on the rivets, riveting an AK is not an easy thing. So what we had to learn. Not only that, we had to actually have components and jigs set up that actually help the proficiency of it. The welding on those things is not easy, man. It is not. But I'll tell you, and I just realized I'm gonna hit you with the biggest flex I can hit on the AK side. One of my iconic figures that I look up in this industry is a guy named Clint Smith. Thunder Ranch.
Yep.
The guy knows AKs. You know why the reason the guy knows AKs? Because he got shot by one in Vietnam. And he's like, all right, that's a bad mamma jamma, as he'll say. And he's like, if it knocked me down the way it did, I want to know more about this gun. And then he ended up using one to keep his life for 2 days before they were able to exfil him.
Yep.
I'm actually wearing a Thunder Ranch shirt right now. And the reason is because every year we go out to Thunder Ranch and run a class with our customers and influencers on the Century Arms Thunder Ranch AK-47. And the reason for that is because Clint put it through the test, put it through 10,000 rounds, beat the living shit out of it, and said, you know what? I'll eat crow. You guys make a good gun. As long as you keep it to this standard, I'm going to put it. And he put his name on it. And we've sold thousands and thousands and thousands of the Thunder Ranch AK because it's a good gun. And that man, Clinton Heidi, No Guns, and then Jack Daniel, who's their head of training, and all those guys out there, they're amazing, man. And they stand behind our gun. And that to me is a validation that I'm proud of, you know, and there's going to be haters no matter what. Yeah. My hope is that you get an opportunity to actually get some trigger time with it. And then if you have questions, you come. So comments below, please bring it. Any questions you have, that's okay. That's what makes this country great, is that we're allowed to talk, we're allowed to disagree, we're allowed to have opinions. But it's when you get so narrow-minded that you're not going to actually have a conversation and you're only there to make a statement. That's when I'm like, all right, I'm done. You know?
Matt, can I say this, Matt, real quick? Because I want you to defend it. I have seen, and this is on the internet, because we talk about people that want to hate, it does seem like the AK crowd tends to be a little more hateful, the most brutal. They are brutal, and they sometimes, like even to you, they've been brutal. They don't want to listen to logic sometimes either.
So that was going to be my addition to this, is that they're especially in the AK crowd, they're kind of like the D&D nerds of the gun industry. You know, like they're definitely black sheep. They're kind of on the fringe. A lot of them are really opinionated. Most of them do have a lot of knowledge.
I'll say they are purists. They do know that they know. You got to know your guns to know it.
Yeah, like I am not an AK professional, especially in those types of groups. And people that don't know anything about AKs, I seem like I know a lot. But those groups, they also are an echo chamber. And so, like, you know, a Raz 47 had an issue, then somebody's one VSK had an issue. Now they combine those two issues together on a Century gun, and it's like you heard about one problem here and it was the exact same problem on a different social media thread, but now you think there's two instances of this one QC issue, and it just like gets piled on and piled on. And it's like, if Century was really making AKs that were blowing up in everybody's faces and the rivets were falling out, like they wouldn't still be making AKs. So it's like these three QC issues that have happened across a sample of 500,000 guns, I think is really like you got to think about the perspective of how many guns are being sold and really try and narrow down how many QC issues are actually happening.
6 out of 10 AK-47s in the United States are brought to you by Century Arms.
I believe that.
Ooh, 60%.
Well, what's
that's
funny
a strong flex. Like that's whether it's, I mean, you got Wazzers, you got Dracos,
well, whether it's your imports or what you, or
60%. It used to be, brother. It used to be 85%.
I was gonna say, I believe it was
a monster, like 90. You said. Yeah, but we know AKs.
Who's the most popular AK guy, Matt? Who, like right now, who's the guy that like Instagram or YouTube or whatever loves? Like who's like the AK purist man?
I have my opinion, so I'll be curious with you.
Well, so there's another guy, a friend of the show too, that I like because he knows a lot about AKs, imports, kit builds, and he'll rock a PSA or a Century and burn it down, and like he'll shoot everything. I do really like Clay Owen's insight on AKs.
Clay's great. Clay's great, and we support Clash Bash and all those guys.
Yeah.
Like, Clay and those guys are amazing. You know, another big one is Rob Ski, AK Operators Union. I mean, Rob's kind of like the OG in it. He's been doing the AKs when AKs weren't cool, you know, and Rob has done Rob's run every one of our guns, and Rob has called me before his very thick com block accent. I've done this gun. I have a problem with this gun. You know, let me tell you why. And I'll never forget. I put Rob as a job reference for me coming to Century. Awesome. And literally, I'm not joking you. And they called Rob. They called Rob. Century called Rob Ski. And Rob called me. I'll never forget. He said, Adam, are you crazy? I said, what? He said, you're going to Century? You're crazy. You're stupid. And I said, they're doing big things. And I was like, they can't tell you everything they're doing. He goes, okay, prove me wrong. And about a year later, Rob calls me, and we talk all the time, and said, okay, brother, You prove me.
You prove me.
You know, but but that's even a guy that knows all the ins and outs of it, you're still susceptible to what the public perception is. And until
that was going to say, that was my point, is if you were to take Rob or you to take Clayco and come out with their own line of rifle like you did Clint Smith, the AK community would label them as sellouts. So then if you said, all right, well, forget those guys, I'm just going to pick a guy who likes AKs and his name is Bob Smith and he's an Instagrammer just like everyone else, and we did a raffle and he won. So we're going to come out with his line of rifle. The AK community would say, well, he doesn't know enough about AKs.
You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
With the AK crowd, like, it's that way.
We're savages, man. We're savages.
I'm a black sheep in that community too. They hate me. I'm always like, American-made AKs, and they're like, boo, you suck. And then the next day I'll post a picture of like some kit-built gun like this Romanian. They're like, I love your guns. But then I say anything about American AKs, and they're stringing me up.
But the biggest thing, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Adam.
Go ahead. No, like, here's my problem with that is like, how many of these guys, and it's not just AK guys, it's any
gun guys a lot.
Gun guy that's
it's
in his mom's
HK guys
basement.
too.
Yeah.
Right. How many of these guys are actually shooters that are complaining? I don't feel like the majority of people actually shoot. Like, just because you shoot 100 rounds a year, or you play Call of Duty, or you read a lot about an AK, you can be the AK expert. But if you never shot one, you live in your mom's basement. Like, I think that's a problem too. A lot of these guys, I'm sorry.
Welcome to the unsubscribe button. Welcome to the unsubscribe button.
Hi.
Hey, you got to have followers before they can unsubscribe. We're happy with our
Hey,
six.
I just call them a spade a spade.
My mom is going to be pissed watching this. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, dude. She was like our 10th subscriber.
Yeah, she was your patron member. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So
no, you're right though. But I tell you, but at least it is like my biggest thing is this. People get mad at like you're making AKs in the U.S. so just keep bringing them in. What if? God forbid, man. Let's talk about like political paths are leading to the easiest one. I mean, obviously we have a pro firearms president right now, but I never until the end would have been shocked if Biden had done an executive order that said, and he can on imports. He could have literally overnight said no more guns coming into this country.
Yep.
Then what do you do? I mean, look, like one of the largest providers of AKs and also more specifically AK ammunition was Russia.
Yes.
All of a sudden, 7.62 by 39 ammo went from 22 cents a round to 50 cents a round. The reality is this: if you are not controlling your own destiny in the country that we live in, which is the land of opportunity and capitalism, then you're setting yourself up to be alienated. So while there may be issues with what is happening, you need to be supportive of that rather than tearing that down and being toxic, because we need our countrymen to continue to do things that we believe in.
Now that you just made your statement about, what was it, 7 out of 10? 6
out of 10, yeah.
6 out of 10. I was trying to give you one more. 6 out of 10 AKs in the U.S. are Century. What's business like now on caliber? What's the swing of 5.56 versus 7.62?
So we came out with a 5.56. We came out with a 5.45. You know, we've done some really cool things where there's talks about a 300 blackout. They're great. They're cool. They're awesome. But I'm not going to hold it back. Like, the sales marketing side of me says, like, we should be like, get it while it's now, you know, get us hot. The reality is this: if we're talking guns, AK-47 is a traditionalist gun, right? You buy that gun. You don't buy that gun at a gun store with a bunch of Magpul furniture on it all tricked out. You buy that gun with classic wood furniture. You see it in a sea of black guns. It looks cool on there. You buy it, and you buy it in 7.62 by 39. I'm just saying what it is. Like, you know, you have fire. Now, what's happening now, though, is what you're seeing is with the dispersion of the availability of 7.62 by 39 and the cost differential, now you're seeing people that do appreciate the platform that are buying it in 5.56. It's still never going to be the lion's share of AKs sold. An AK is still going to be an AK instead of 7.62 by 39. But for those purists, what you got to remember, the AK segment of our industry is very small in comparison to what is like the rest of rifles and calibers. So now you've taken a very small segment and made it even smaller. So 5.56 is going to be good. My recommendation is, I think there's a lot of Palmetto State Armory has one. We have one. There's a couple other companies that have one. The reality, though, is if you want one, if you like that, I would get it because I don't see that being a very prevalent platform that's going to continue for a long time. I could be wrong, but I think the only reason that would happen is just if we can't get 7.62 by 39, like, and people want to get.
But you got
I want
300
a Polish-
blackout. I mean, and that's,
want
I
a
know Matt's
gorilla.
going to argue me on this one. I mean, 300 blackout's been shown. It's been proven to be a very capable round. It's actually almost cheap. It's about the same price as 3.9 right now, if not cheaper, depending on where you're buying it from.
Yeah.
Why? And it's great suppressed. Why not just move towards that direction? Unless we're going to start manufacturing more 3.9 in the U.S.
But do you think the purist is going to allow that? The same guys that we were just talking about, the same guys that are going to be in our comments roasting all of us.
Guys are unsubscribing. Yeah. The same ones unsubscribing because they hate me because I'm not a purist.
I was going to say I'm not an AK guy, but I want to get down. I want to get better at the manual of arms. So I'm actually looking at something that we haven't said on this show, but it's actually it was recommended to me by Clay Owens, and it was a Polish barrel because it's still a NATO 5.56 AK.
Yeah,
that's used. And not that I'm trying to go on and make this about them, but it's, you still get the manual of arms, you still get everything, but I'm not the AK guy, so I'm not going to shoot it that often. Mm-hmm. But again, it's one more
proficiency
caliber.
Yeah.
It's one more caliber I got to put in my ammo cans. And it's like, man, I got too many now. I don't need to get into another one.
Yeah, but
because I don't own an AK.
A 5.56 would fit in well. You got lots of 5.56 guns.
That's what I'm saying. So that's where I'm at on that.
No, and it's fair. And like, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that technically, but if we're just talking candidly, I mean, that's the reality of it is the purist side of AKs is going to say 7.62 by 39. But we have some cool ones. We had like the VZ 2008 and things like that, and like those are really cool. But even back then, like to your statement, the manual of arms, they said, hey, we want our soldiers to be able to operate, on this platform. This is how we teach them. But their armory depots in Czech were 5.56 and these other calibers. So they said, all right, well, we'll create this because we're still going to teach them how to operate it. But the caliber that's going to run is going to be this. And it's still going to go pew, and you're still going to know if you have to pick up your comrade's AK from another country, you're going to know how to run it. It's just going to be, a little bit different. And
chunky boy.
I think there's always going to be a place for that. I don't know. I think the AK is kind of a purist one, and we'll see. But I'd be surprised if the caliber changes grew in popularity to like overtake 7.62 by 30. I don't think that'll happen. But I could be wrong.
I think you're right on that. I think there's a lot of guys like me who love just shooting AKs no matter what. And so like right now I've been like, man, I want a 5.56 AK just because I love shooting the platform so much and I do shoot so much that the cost difference in operating it, like it's been like 7.62, 5.56 has been kind of like this, and it's like if 7.62 makes that break above in pricing, like it just makes it just makes sense to me to have at least one 5.56 AK. Like I have 7 rifles in 7.62 by 39, so they get
all of a sudden all those become obsolete if you don't have ammo for them. Yeah,
exactly. And like I've got plenty of ammo, but it also like I'm not going to go blowing through it if all of a sudden
that's what
the price, the price if the price doubles. So
I'll tell you what else is. Go ahead.
For guys like me, I think that 5.56 AK makes sense for somebody like Mike, but I do think that you're right, and that most people are going to agree that an AK is a 7.62 gun, and there's always going to be, as long as we can continue to get some ammo at a decent price, that's going to be the largest pie share of the market.
But the 5.56, we have our BFT 5.56. The one thing I will say about it though is the feel of how it shoots is so much different than the 7.62 by 39. Man, it's a smooth shooting gun. I mean, because like, I'm 6'10", like we talked about. I'm a tall guy, so the length of pull on an AK isn't exactly like an AK is built for a 5'8" to 5'10" guy. That's what the traditional wood stock on, right? We get it, Adam. You check boxes, yeah. But like so that is already a little bit uncomfortable. But I really enjoy shooting the platform, and I'm good with the platform. But when you shoot that 5.56 one, you're like,
dink.
You know, it's not as violent as what is a 7.62 by 39 with a traditional, especially with like the slant break and things like that. Like it's definitely noticeable. So there are some cool features that you can definitely appreciate.
So I want to put you in charge before we move over to Canik. I want to just play a hypothetical game. And
what could go wrong?
Yeah, I want all three of us to give our gun, and these guys don't know I'm asking this, but I want to say it, and then I want you to say yours, and I think I already know it because you mentioned it earlier, but maybe you got a second. All right, so I'll start with Matt, and he can go an AK variant or whatever he wants. If Century Arms put Adam in charge of product development and they were going to launch a brand new platform that, I don't want to say clone, but you know what I'm getting at. You're going to make something that, you know, you're either going to kind of like they do with the AP5, MP5 type thing. If he said, man, I'm a loss for words, I need to come up with one, what would you want us to build? What a great question. I'd love to see this in the comments too. I would actually really like what would your recommendation be?
Who's going first?
We're gonna let Matt go, and then you're next, Adam.
That's a really big question. I think that they are pretty well lined out on AKs without trying to like go and just clone something. I think if anybody could start making a more approachable, like Swedish SIG, like SG, like 500 series SIGs that weren't like a bajillion dollars, kind of like the recreation of these HK guns. I think that would be a really sick platform.
Do you think there's a big demand for that?
No,
or is that just like
I just think it would be cool as fuck.
No, it's cool. Yeah, that's the big thing. Like I was curious. I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm like, I never even heard that before. Like nobody's. Okay. What about you, Adam?
Oh, so we're gonna stay in America. Well, I think it's an American-made gun. I'm pretty sure it was. We're gonna go with something that's very classic. The good old Chicago typewriter. I think the Thompson is awesome. I would love to see now, I'm not a purist, but I would love to see a modern. Now, granted, it can't be full auto for most of us, but a modern Tommy gun with some slicked out rail and an EOTech on it, with a big old drum underneath it, I think would be badass.
Okay. What caliber? Still 45 or what?
Both.
No, 9 mil. We're going in. We're gonna go.
9 mil Tommy guns?
Okay. Do a traditional one with 45.
I don't hate it. I'll take one.
I think a 9 mil would be badass, but a suppressed modern day looking Tommy gun. Because I'm all about that. I love to take the old and mix it with the new. I know my purists hate that, but that's my vibe. And something like that would be really cool.
I don't hate it. I'd buy one. Yeah.
All right. So mine, we talked about this earlier in the week because I'm doing a build on one of these. But mine comes to me because when I look up the cheapest belt fed on the market right now is around $10,000 to $12,000, and it's most likely a saw.
Yeah,
it's a 249, and HK has one that is basically off of the G3 platform that is the HK21. All you need you need the pull out barrel, but you could probably make one that doesn't have the replaceable barrel because we're not going into combat, and it's going to be a semi-automatic anyway.
Right.
But there is people are going to say why, and it's going to be the same reason why people still buy a semi-automatic MP5 or a semi-automatic, Mac 10 or Tech 9 or
P90.
whatever.
I bought the P90 with the long barrel. Exactly. Yeah.
People buy them for nostalgic reasons, and if there could be an approachable belt fed, you could do it in it's made in 7.62.
Mm-hmm.
If you could come with one of those and do the things that Century Arms does and make it not $10,000, make it approachable to the consumer market, people like me can do some conversions, but it's not that big of a deal. But there is a market that it's not for everybody, but there are guys that just say, I want a belt fed because it's a belt fed.
Yeah.
And then you have people like my dad who I tell that I'm building one, and he's like, you're an idiot. You don't need it. And I'm like, I get it. I don't need it, but
I don't need 1,000 horsepower under my hood either, but I want it. Yeah, exactly.
So my thing is, you've got all of the product tooling basically there. You're just missing the belt feed mechanism that goes in front of the upper receiver, and you're missing the barrel. Dude, I think that if you could have a product guy look, that would be my pick.
Maybe like the AS10B, which is like our RPK version, something like that would be the easiest. Almost even the direct transition.
Even an AK, if you made it belt fed, if you made the AK belt fed, but I was just thinking like, all right, these guys brought out stuff that it would require, and it's not bad answers because I told them they weren't prepared. But I'm thinking like, hey, you guys have 95% of the tooling to do this.
So there is, I don't mind telling you this. We have had conversations with NKE about what that would look like, to be honest with you, in regards to,
you guys
they make them. They make them already. You know what I'm saying? But it's like
you've got stuff in your kits. You had some stuff on the what is that called? The surplus page or whatever on Primary Arms.
Century Arms surplus,
you had 21. You had 21 kits about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, you were asking. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, I need a barrel. So I'm going to have to go RCM and just wait till they come in. But anyway, yeah, I'm like, dude, y'all could come out with something like that and it would piss the rest of the market off because they don't have one.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think it's cool. And that's where we're going. We're trying to find these opportunities.
You said earlier MP7, and that may still be your answer, but if you have a second one that you haven't said.
MP7 is definitely my top. I want one so bad. I just think they're awesome.
They're badass.
They're badass, man. I just want one so bad. If I had to go in a different direction, I'll tell you what, and I don't know if this is, I don't think this is revolutionary, but Adam, to your point, what I want to see is a price point reliable variant that bucks the trend of going classic out the gate. So there's going to be people that go, I don't want this, but I want to see like an M-lock railed, tricked out, cool, sub $600 lever action rifle.
Yes.
I want to see it. And I'm looking for it. I'm being honest. I'm looking all over the world for it. Like I'm trying to find it. It's not, Henry and Rosie and all these are doing great jobs. And Henry, Marlin, those guys they're iconic. And I don't want to take their business, but what they do, just as we were talking about with HK and stuff like that, is a completely different game. I think there's opportunity for the guy that already has 25 guns. And he wants a 26 and he wants a lever action, but he wants to trick it out. To go ahead and have that kind of cool tricked out rail, maybe like the little side saddle already set up on the side. Just a cool little gun. It's like dope Mad Max kind of style lever action and have it. Yeah, exactly. But like
all you see is the back.
But I can see it. I can see it already there. But yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean? Like I think if you could find that at a price point and that was reliable, and I don't think you need to reinvent the calibers. I think you do, because we know what calibers we want. I think a 5.56 one, maybe you could do something like that just because we have the ammo in it. You know what I'm saying? But like, you still want the cowboy calibers. You still want
yes.
I thought to me, that's what I want to play with that.
That'd be cool.
You started saying that, I thought you were about to say with rails and tricked out. I thought you were going to say M1 Garand, and I was like, oh.
I would love that too. That would be another cool.
Oh, that'd be the shit.
Tricked out.
A tricked out like railed M1 Garand.
Well, Mike, the reason I can only say so much stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about. So,
man, that'd be badass.
But I think there's a spot for both, though, Adam. You're right. There's a spot for and I love what you guys do with the AP series, Lime, and it allows to do both. You can keep it as a purist, or allow the AKs. You can keep it as a purist, wood grain, or you can do things I like to do and upgrade the rails and get rid of the wood grain and put a modern day optic on it.
Yeah, there's a reason JMac is popular now. JMac Customs, because there is such a big market to trick out stuff and make it modern. Yeah. Even like old rap cars, you know what I'm saying? People are doing cool things to them.
But they're putting modern suspension in them.
Exactly.
There's a lot of classic cars out there. They're putting the modern power steering in them. You know why? Because it's whole technology. And yes, maybe that solid gun was made well, but we learn how to do things better. And I think there's nothing wrong with having both. You can appreciate the nostalgia, you can have the pure, but then you can also modernize it. But some people, they get in their and car guys do it too. If you don't have matching numbers, like car guys, they're just as bad.
Yeah.
So Adam, I want to switch gears again. We've covered Century AKs. We've talked in pretty good detail about roller delay, but there's also another huge brand in partnership with Century that folks know a lot about. A lot of exciting news this year from these guys. But tell us a little bit about how Century got involved with Canik, how Canik came to be in the market and all of a sudden just grabbing a big chunk of competition share, this year's new grab at concealed carry share. Like, tell us about Canik a bit.
So Canik obviously is something that to a lot of people seems like it kind of came onto the marketplace out of nowhere.
Seems like it did.
Unique, yeah, right. The unique thing about Canik though is the partnership with Century Arms started actually in 2012. They came in, back then the ownership of Canik is, which actually, just to clear it up, so we pronounce it Canik in the United States. The origin of it was Janik, kind of like with a J. Actually, it comes from, it's actually a region in Turkey, the Janik region, manufactured in a town called Samsun. And they were making what would be a lot of people would consider it a very similar gun to some other predominant platforms out there. And what happened is the first iterations that came to the United States, people were trying it out, and they said, this isn't a bad gun, but the trigger sucks. Not great, sucks. And so Utku Aral, who's the general manager and the son of the Mr. Zafar, who was the originator of president, and Utku has now stepped into that leadership role. He said, this isn't going to happen. So literally took it back into the lab and was like, we're going to have the best striker fire out the box trigger in the industry. And that's kind of what led to the Canik trigger. So the catalyst that really put the Canik brand on the market in the United States and on people's tongues, even though Century has had them since 2012, was the TP9 SFX, which was that long, 5.1 inch barreled, long slided 9mm pistol. And it was one of those guns that was just a damn good gun at a price that you couldn't argue. And it was one of those ones that they didn't have a lot of marketing behind it at that point. They didn't have a lot of funds to really support it, but it was the taste test model. Like, people shot it on the range, like, what is that? That's good. Wow, for $450, I'll go get one. And what it came with extra mags, it came with holster, it came with all these bells and whistles that didn't make sense for that value. So the TP9 SFX really helped catalyst the brand and give us some credibility. I came on in July of 2019, and one of the things I was most excited about was the opportunity in Canik. At that point, Canik was, they were doing well in terms of what they thought was well. At that point, they were less than 1% of all striker fire pistols sold in the United States were Canik. But they were ecstatic, because from where they were in 2012 to where they were in 2019 was, they were still in a percent at that point. They were having
even 1% of that market's pretty good money.
They were having a conversation, right?
The trajectory was going up.
Exactly. So since
Small,
then,
but it was going up.
Exactly. We've started to build the brand. We've started to work with people. We've started to have, just as we've gone, the third time this point conversation has come up, is the credibility started getting there in terms of performance and reliability, and then the innovation. So one of the things that Canik does have is we're small enough to be able to move quicker and react to what the consumer asks for. So we started coming out with the products. The TP9 Elite SC was one of the first major projects, which was the subcompact version, going after like the 43 and things like that. Then you had, the Mete series, which was more the duty size. And then you had the MC9, which was the micro compact. And out the gate, I came just as I'm talking to you guys and said, look, we weren't the first to do it. We're not claiming to be the first to do it. SIG had a great one. Springfield had a great one. What we are is we're saying, hey, we're third or fourth to market, but we've had the opportunity now. We slowed it down. We listened to what you loved about those guns and what you wish there was some small iterations. You wish it had optics cut ready. You wish the capacity was a little higher. You wish you had this. You wish the trigger wasn't so mushy, things like that. We created our gun out the gate to answer these consumer needs. So that kind of thing is what really helped elevate. And then we worked with Nils Jonasson, who is our team captain, and it's just kind of just taken over the competitive shooting world over the last couple of years. Such a humble guy, but so knowledgeable. We created the Rival, and then we created the Rival S, which is the steel frame, which people love, and it's just still on back order. And then we had the opportunity to work with Mr. Taryn Butler over at TTI, and that was a flex. That was one of those ones I flew out there, and he was hesitant because he's never done a production gun before.
Right.
Obviously, what makes him so special is his attention to detail on production guns. He takes in a production gun and makes it something special. So he and I went back and forth in terms of, hey, this is my dream. What is your dream? And I'm pretty proud of I got him. He was like, I don't know. I said, what is your goal? He's like, what do you mean? I said, is it to make a lot of money? He's like, I don't care about the money. I said, so you want a legacy? He said, yeah. I said, let's make enough guns that are a quality gun that people can actually afford to get, that thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the country and around the world have a gun with your name on it, and it's one of their favorite guns in the country, and they're safe. And he was like, you're an asshole, let's do it. You know what I mean? So let's go. And man, it was the best-selling gun of 2024. Canik TTI.
Not everybody can afford a Sand Viper or a Pit Viper, and it's like.
So they had under $1,000.
Yeah, I was going to say, because my first experience with Canik was in the Medes, and I've got the SFX and the SFT.
Yeah.
And then I've got another SFX, and it's just basically one's the tan and black, and then one's an all black, and then the SFT is a all black. But I was blown away when they first came out. Not when they first came out, but when I first got my hands on them, because it reminded me a lot of that Austrian company where it's like, hey, they're coming in at a lower price point because you have to flood the market and you want to keep your price down to get to the consumer. But we all know that prices aren't going to stay that way forever, so it's eventually going to keep going up. Even if it's $50 in 3 years, it'll happen. But I don't think until you actually, I think gun stores do Canik an injustice by having them in the case, only because I was blown away when I got my first one and it came in the box and you open it up and it came with, it was either 2 or 3 backstrap plates.
3, yeah.
3, okay. It came with 3 backstrap plates. It came with your extra mags. It came with it came with some plates.
The optics plates, yeah. For pretty much every optic that's out in the market available right now, yeah.
Yes. And it came with the cool little miniature gun with the toolkit inside it. I'm like, I'll keep it for nostalgia. I don't want to strip anything out. I'll use other tools, but I'm sure they work great. But then the other thing that really got me, and I know that we could go down, this is a whole other podcast about who makes a great holster, but it also came with a holster. So when you bought this gun, it was all you need is ammo. Mm-hmm. All you need is your ammo. Go buy some ammo. And as long as you're in the holster was even a paddle style holster. So even if you're not wearing a belt, stuff the backside in your gym shorts and you're ready to roll. Like you can do what you want. And it came all in one. And that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I think that seeing the gun in the glass case next to the others, yeah, it's great. But I'm like, damn.
We joke about it. We were working with companies like Academy and stuff on these big boxes. Like, can I put a sticker on your window or something to at least show the case? Because I mean, part of what it is it's superior value, not just a superior firearm. So we're excited. And I'll tell you, like, if you don't mind me just kind of segueing, that's what we're excited. We launched. You talked about it a minute ago. Obviously, at SHOT Show this year, we teased, and it'll come out April 15th. We're launching the Canik Mete MC9 Prime, which is our tricked out, Ferrari of a micro compact. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's got a ported barrel, integrally compensated slide, all new grip texturing, completely covering, encompassing the entire grip. All new designed double undercut trigger guard, the flat diamond cut aluminum 90-degree break trigger, tritium night sights, and both front and rear from night vision, new optics cuts, and really aggressive slide cuts. Integrally flared magwell with an external magwell to all the back straps, the optics cuts. And now for the holster, we actually stepped it up. We partnered with G-Code. And it actually has a G-Code inside the waistband, outside the waistband reversible, and the dexterous holster that actually, it's a $200 value on the holster alone. Comes in the big travel, the hard case, the 2-tiered hard case, TSA approved, lockable hard case. All comes in at a $649 MSRP with a $599 MAP. So
you can't beat that.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah, exactly. It slices, it dices. Yeah. And then the coolest thing, the cherry on top of that, is it's the first gun made by Canik USA. So what we were talking about, controlling our destiny, understanding where things are going. So we took all the technological advancements, all the same machinery, the technical data packages, all the engineering that's made us what we are, and we were able to open a facility that is completely integrally connected in terms of technology to our facilities in Turkey. And we now have one in West Palm Beach pumping these guns out on a day-to-day basis.
That's badass.
And we're ready, employing Americans, employing passionate 2A-minded individuals. It's now happening, and we've got Canik USA running, and this is the first gun coming out of it, and we're stoked, man. It's one of the proudest, it's one of the pinnacles of my career, and it's happening right now.
That's exciting, but I mean, you said it, but people still don't grasp it, and no one else does this, and you guys can truly say that. You make a gun out of the box. I don't care if you're a brand new shooter, have never owned a firearm, everything you need, and then you can expand on. Or you're someone that wants a firearm that is on a budget, but wants a gun that they can compete with, that wants to get in competition, or wants a gun they can just carry and defend themselves with. It does it all. Like, you get a weapon that you don't have to break the bank on, and you can get into just having a basic handgun, and or, like I tell people all the time, I want to compete, like right there, you can go compete in competitions with this gun out the box.
Mm-hmm.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. And the biggest thing to us is the value side of it. Obviously, there's going to be, based on whatever the gun is, like the Rival S is an $899 gun. The reality is it's a metal gun, it's like the TTI, all the things that went into that, all the accoutrements that go into that, and the added value, it's going to be more expensive than, say, an MC9 that is a smaller gun and things like that. But if you compare that to anything that would be an apple to apple or even close to it, we're not even having the same conversation.
No, you're getting for $800, you're getting a basic every other brand out there that makes a good gun. You're getting the gun. You're getting maybe 2 mags. You're not getting all the base plates if it is optics ready. If you're,
and here's your cardboard box. Have a good day.
And here's your cardboard box, or really crappy, not TSA approved case. Yeah. Sorry, we all know what I'm talking about. But it is what it is. I mean, that's the big thing, especially with optics nowadays. And it's so annoying when you have these companies out there that are still so hell-bent on, this is a cut for the gun. Well, that's stupid. I mean, or you have to go buy the additional plates. Like, just... if we can't agree on an optics plate, then make it so you can, like you guys do, you can.
Exactly. And here's the thing, and it's working. Last week I was in California. We're just added to the California roster. 3 weeks.
Right. Wow.
We're bringing it in. Not only that, I personally went there with San Francisco, San Diego, and LA and bought 122 billboards across the state where I'm putting up billboards that say Canik come to California with pistols on it. And I'm just going to piss off every Karen there. I met with the president, market president.
Not going to like that.
Oh, yeah. I made every market president commit to me and sign papers saying they wouldn't pull them down for a month long. I'm just running them there. I'm partnering with iHeartRadio, iHeartMedia. We're going after all their podcasts. So if they listen to a podcast on there, they're going to get targeted with ads saying Canik is now in California.
Awesome.
We're coming, but we're doing this, and between the innovation, the commitment to excellence, the commitment to the 2A community, and then honestly the commitment to grow, Canik is now 9% of all striker fire pistols sold in the country are Canik.
Look at Daddy work. Look at Daddy work.
That's a
Let them cook, boys. Let them cook, right?
That's a proud moment. I mean, for Canik and Century, but also like obviously something that you're pretty proud of too, and I think that you should.
Man,
take a minute to pat yourself on the back for that. That's great work, Adam. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. And I'm blessed, and we've got an amazing team that's really passionate. But I'll tell you this. One of the things that I think is most important in our industry is voices for the industry and what you guys do. You know, obviously it's taken a long time to get on your show, but why I think it's important is because there are in any industry, whether it's makeup or cars or guns or food, there's going to be people that are going to say whatever needs to be said for the highest dollar, right? And there's going to be executives from companies that'll only go and have conversations where they know it's a safe space, right? They know exactly what the script is going to be. They know exactly what they're going to talk about. They know, like, are we doing this live? Is this edited? The reality is what? I texted you guys 20 minutes, an hour ago and said, all right, what do we talk about today? You know what I mean? Like, the reality is true, unabashed, unpoliticized, you know, conversation where, hey, if you don't like something, say you don't like something, but at least give the person an opportunity to rectify the problem. These kind of conversations, these kind of social platforms, these kind of ambassadors, like what you guys are doing, gives credibility to companies like us, gives the consumer that, like you said, not everybody has all this kind of money to spend. Not only that, more importantly than the money, screw the money. I want somebody that buys our gun to know that that gun is going to do what it needs to do. Yes, it's great on the range. It's great to go hunting. But if my wife is ever in danger, I want her or me to know that if I grab this gun, point it, and go bang, it's going to do exactly what I need to do that one time. That one time is all I give a damn. I don't care about an MOA at 100 yards at that point. I needed to go bang from 5 feet and stop the guy that's trying to hurt my family. And I don't take that lightly. I'm not going to put my name, our reputation on a brand, on a gun that's not going to do that, because I don't want that on my content. I wouldn't want that. You know, my mom carries a Canik. You know, my dad has a Century Arms AK in his closet. If there's a big bump in the night, you know, he's got a Canik.
Don't go looking for trouble over at Adam's parents'
Exactly.
house.
You know what I'm saying? But like, these are the kind of things I believe in what we do, and I want to work with people that also know that they're the integrity behind what they say. If you guys say, hey, I got a problem with my Visca and I want to talk to you about it, why? Then let's have it for the world to see. Because the only way people are actually at this point, with so much commercialism and so much marketing going on, the only way people are actually going to believe it is if you're transparent, because people can see through the bullshit now. Let's call it spade a spade. And that's what you guys do. And there's some other really good people out there that are genuinely spreading the good word. I think it's just as important as what we do. Like, honestly, and so you guys got to pat yourself on the back. And whether it's you're 10 subscribers or 10,000 or 10 million, these people that actually take the time to listen for an hour and a half to our ramblings, they want to know you're genuine. And at the end of this, they're going to make a decision based on kind of how you presented it. So I'm really appreciative and honored to be a part of what you guys are doing.
I mean, that's our point. You know, when we first started out, we actually kind of were very vanilla and softballs, and hey, we don't want to piss anybody in the industry off, and that's cool. But we got our feedback. You know, a lot of the people were like, hey, you're not asking any tough questions. And it's like, okay, well, I don't really have any questions. Like when I have issues with products, I don't keep it online. I know I have to do more now that I'm on the internet, but I typically just make a phone call and say, hey, here's the issues I'm having. Let's fix this. So we want to ask more of those questions, and it's not to make you be divisive or attack the other company. You know, you can be on this platform. You're allowed to be as divisive as you want. You're allowed to throw as many stones as you want, but it's something you don't get every day, because we sit down with people from all walks of life throughout this industry, and it's, hey, tell us about your products. Tell us why they're great. Tell us why they sucked in some cases. Tell us what you did to fix that.
Right.
And also, you know, it's just hearing the story. It's also the American dream, hearing that, you know, less than 1%, you know, sold in the market, and now where you're at, it's like, that's what this is about. It shows that people are buying, people are arming themselves, because honestly, 99% of what we do is shoot for fun. We all pray and hope, no matter how cool we think we are, badass we are, none of us ever really want to have to be forced to use a firearm in a defensive situation. We'd rather just go out and shoot and high five and shoot.
Good in the ground, baby. That's what it's about.
Yeah, but it's that 1%. Travis Haley said it, like it's that 1% of your life that you can't control. And if you make a wrong move or something doesn't happen just right, it's bad news. So in that 1%, you have to make sure it goes bang.
Yeah.
So,
dude, that's awesome. What we're committed to do, man. And the reality is, everybody makes mistakes. Companies make mistakes. Century Arms started as a typewriter repair company. Canik, the company guys that they were driving refrigeration trucks around Europe delivering crawfish. Like these are guys that lived their dream. You know what I'm saying? And like bought into these things and grew to where they are. And now they're literally kind of like they're invested in what is probably, in my opinion, other than the First Amendment, tell me the right that's more crucial and more important than the Second Amendment. And now you're 9% of the striker fire pistols in this country, 6 out of 10 AKs in this country or century. Like your legacy is cemented in the right to bear arms, and whether you like it or not, the greatest country in the world still to this day. I couldn't have a cooler job, man. Unless I was pro player, pro basketball player or something like that, married to a supermodel. Unless it was that, I don't know what else job I could have.
I would like to know the numbers. I know Matt's got a question for you, but I would like to know the number of the percentage market share you guys have on the MP5 AP5 platform in the US. I bet I would be willing to say that you probably beat the OG.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. Well, the OG, I think, but honestly, I'm not even trying. That's not a flex. The OG doesn't care about the commercial market.
Yeah, well,
I told you, the number I heard was under 1,000 guns a year.
Yeah, they don't even want to sell semi-automatic rifles in the U.S. Like, who cares?
I saw the other day. It was like James Reeves did an interview with the CEO of HK, and it was like, complete this sentence, and he was like, "We are HK," he was like, "because we hate you," and I was like, "Yeah, that's literally like."
There was a good takeaway from that though. The CEO of HK USA said most of the time we don't see these guns because it's a gun that was a request, like a contract job for a specific use case. It's not useful to anybody. It seems really cool to consumers in America, but they built this gun
anywhere else it's not applicable.
Right. Exactly. They built this gun for Swedish Special Forces, and only their team has it. They're not going to just rip off a bunch of them to sell to America for no reason.
Yeah. Well, but the other thing I think that I pulled the biggest thing away from that is our friends over at 1911 Syndicate, Jake Dwyer, Chris Blau, and Shout out. With the firearm blog, like you're starting to see, I think HK, they're never going to admit it, but I think they're starting to bend their knee a little bit because they're realizing the power of media and social media, and it's no longer we are HK and that's good enough. Like the CEO went on a podcast.
Yeah.
That is unheard of.
With a guy in short shorts, you know what I mean?
Really short shorts.
Shout out to AI.
Kudos to them.
Kudos
to them. Yeah, kudos to them because they gotta be out there just like the rest of you guys because it's more important than ever. So awesome. Yeah. That it just makes me happy.
Well, man, it like I said, it goes back to iron sharpens iron. Good people got to look out for good people. You guys are just as valuable as anything I can do, and the only way sometimes people are going to actually feel comfortable investing in something that is a tool is going to be from people that they feel is like their guy next door. Whether they never get the chance to shake your hand in person, as they watch you, they build a relationship with you, they grow, that they can trust you, and then that helps them validate a purchase. That's a very big decision, not just in terms of the monetary value, but also like we talked about, that 1%.
Yeah.
So Century Arms has, I would say that they're, most of their legacy comes from importation. Most of what they did for a long time was import guns, and you've obviously got a great relationship with our AK building friends in Romania. You've got a couple of great relationships in Turkey. What what else is on the board that you could speak on, or is there anything that
Yeah, I got to be a little
touch
careful,
on a little bit?
yeah. So there's a couple cool things that kind of are Easter eggs in our booth at SHOT Show this year. We are coming out. We just partnered with a company called ATA in Turkey. ATA is actually, it translates to ancestor. Basically, they are one of the originals. They are one of the original gun manufacturers out of Turkey. They made the first side-by-side, the first over-under that was made in Turkey and exported. They've done some amazing things, and we're super excited. They work with some huge manufacturers as well, some of our I guess you could call them our competitors, but really, like I said, the way I view it is we're all in this together. But we are coming out with our ALR and our ASR rifles, which are our precision rifles.
Ooh,
Yeah, so we're coming out with a skeletonized version of the ALR, which is in 308 and 6.5.
Nice.
8-point adjustable stock, comes with bipod, all kinds of, I mean, all the bells and whistles, adjustable trigger, all kinds of things, and it's coming in at under $1,000. And with the ability to put in like the carbon fiber barrels, all these kind of cool things, all the stuff that you want. And then my favorite is the ASR. So that's going to be the big bore, you're going to have the 338 Lapua, but then it's also, you're going to be able to, with just the little tool that's attached to the gun, it's completely, you can change it out in under 2 minutes. Change out the barrel, change out the bolt, change out everything. Comes with levels, comes with everything, so you can actually level. And it's going to come with both the conversion kit. So it comes 338 and 308, and it'll be half the price of any competitor out there, to say the story.
So we're talking like modular bolt action precision rifles.
Oh yeah, we're coming after like the defense contractor side of it, like the big boys.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so
And
cool.
so that'll be available. Our target is June, July of this year. We've got some sub guns that we're working on, coming out with some cool stuff. And then there's some big stuff. I can't say much on it, but we've got some big stuff. One of the brands that we're really proud to have, and we've been working tirelessly to grow on the back end and about ready to release, is US Palm. So we have US Palm, and obviously US Palm for many years has been known for AK accessories. Really excited. We were able to bring over some top talent from, we brought in some top talent engineers and product managers from companies like Colt and Sig Sauer over the last couple of years that have created a development program for us and a top elite engineering program, which is also, we have 80,000 square feet for them in West Palm as well. That is creating, and US Palm will be coming out with something outside of just accessories by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's gonna be a little more bang for your buck, if you know what I'm saying. So we've got some cool stuff coming there too that's gonna shake the world. It's time for US Palm to go out of just 7.62 by 39. So pretty excited to have some cool stuff there. Got a lot of cool stuff coming. We've got all kinds of stuff. I'm going to be over at EWA next week, which is the SHOT Show of Europe, and we're going to meet with some amazing partners there. We're going. Our foot's on the gas.
Hell yeah.
Trump coming in the office always kind of, the last time he was in office, called the Trump slump. For those that don't know, actually the industry went down when he was in office. Yeah. And while you say for us we got to work harder, but the reality is people feel safer, and they feel like they're not going to be infringed upon. So sales go down. There's not as much of a sense of urgency. And you know what? If I have to sacrifice a little more of my time and effort to work a little harder to make sure our sales stay up because of that, but that also means our country's in a better place, and so be it. So. But with that being said, though, this is our time to actually do our jobs. And we're out there trying to find the most innovative product we can at the best price we can. And we're going to be bringing the heat over the next year. So we're ready for it.
Yeah, that's exciting. Adam, we truly appreciate it. Hearing about Century, Canik, everything coming up, man, it was some time. It took some time to get you on the podcast, but we got you. This was a great one. Probably one of my favorites. But Adam, before we get out of here today, where can people find you personally if you're a social media butterfly?
Oh, God, you do.
Where can they find Canik? Plug you before we get out of here.
Yeah, so Canik is at Canik USA on pretty much all platforms, and then Century Arms, at Century Arms is the You know what? I don't ever do this. I'm not a big social influencer guy, but when I'm reading the comments, if you see Adam is tiny, if you see Adam is tiny going off, it might be I might have had a couple whiskey and vintages myself at that point if I'm defending it, but that'll be me. So if you have any questions or concerns, like just understand, like I'm passionate about it. I stand behind everything I say. We stand behind it, and we're ready to rock and roll with you guys. So. Let's go.
Awesome.
And I'll tell you what, I'm going to say this. I'm just going to say it. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but here's what I want. Why don't you guys we'll give it however long you want, a week or 2 weeks, and take the comments, pull into a raffle, and we'll give away one of the very first Canik MC9 primes to a listener. We'll give one of those away, and winner's choice. We'll do however you guys want to give it away. You guys figure out. We'll give away a AP51 or an AP53, their choice. So we'll give away one of those as well. But you got to obviously, you guys set the rules of it, how they got to comment, what they got to do. But man, it's an honor to work with you guys. You chased me down for long enough. I don't want to trouble. So I'm excited to be a part of it. I'll be looking at the comments and excited to do more with you guys and hook up a couple of your listeners.
That would be freaking awesome. Let's go, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mike, we can't hear you.
Yeah, Mike, I think you've been cut off. You've been censored.
Oh, you got me now?
Yeah.
I was going to say, one of us is screwed because he's giving away 2 guns, and when I post this to YouTube, I'm only posting it to
He's editing that out. Yeah,
It's only going to be 3 of us
I'm going to
commenting.
have my wife in the comments.
It'll just be me in the comments, and I'll turn them off.
I'm actually commenting too, trying to.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you listen this far, make sure you do add a comment. Go ahead and at Century Arms in the comments, guys, and let us know what you want Century to bring out. The best idea or gun on will definitely put you in the raffle. So think of something that you want Century to come out with at Century Arms in the comments, and we will get you in that raffle, guys. Like I always say, make sure you are subscribe, hit that notification bell. Weekly, guys. Every week we have a new Whiskey Wednesday podcast coming out. Like I always say, stay dangerous, carry a weapon. We'll talk to you soon.